Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something a lot of people struggle with. Setting goals and actually achieving them. Not just letting them fizzle out.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly. So to help us with this, we're going to use Brian Tracy's 12-step goal setting guide, and we'll be pulling that from his PDF, 12-step goal setting guide.pdf. And of course, we're going to blend that with the GTD method, which we'll be looking at in the GTD 15 minutes PDF.pdf.
Sound like a plan.
All right, so if you're ready to turn those vague aspirations into concrete achievements, grab a notebook and let's get started.
Yeah, it's amazing how just the simple act of writing down your goals can really increase your chances of success.
Really?
Yeah, like Brian Tracy's research says that only 3% of adults actually write down their goals.
Wow, only 3%.
Yeah.
So does that mean the rest of us are working for them?
Yeah, pretty much. But
Yeah.
no, but seriously, why is writing things down so important?
Yeah, I've heard that too, but I've never really understood it.
Well, it's about making a commitment. When you write something down, it's not just a fleeting thought anymore. It becomes real, like a statement of intent. And then that frees up so much mental space, to solve problems and take action.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like, decluttering your mind to make room for the important stuff.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about those first few steps. Brian Tracy calls this initial phase idealizing. What does that even mean?
So imagine your life without any limitations, right? What would your ideal life look like in 5 years, 10 years, Think about your career, relationships, health, finances, everything.
Okay.
Even your personal growth. And just let your imagination run wild, Don't hold back. Then you can capture all those things on paper.
Okay, I love that. Dream big. And then get specific, right? Because Tracy really emphasizes writing those goals down clearly, almost like you're placing an order with the universe. So instead of saying, I want to be healthier, you'd write something like, I will lose 10 pounds by July 1st by exercising 3 times a week and eating a balanced diet.
Exactly. That specificity is so key. You're basically turning a vague desire into a measurable target that you can actually achieve.
And speaking of targets, deadlines. They're pretty crucial too, right?
Absolutely. You can think of them as forcing systems, for your subconscious mind. They create that sense of urgency.
Okay, so we have a clear written goal. It has a deadline. Now, the next step for Tracy is all about identifying the obstacles. And this is where things get really interesting, because he says that 80% of those obstacles are internal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We often focus on all those external factors that could be holding us back. But the truth is, the biggest battles we fight are within ourselves.
That's deep.
It's our own limiting beliefs, our fears, our doubts, even our procrastination habits that can really sabotage our success.
So how do we overcome those internal roadblocks?
Well, it all starts with being aware of them, right? So you identify those negative thoughts and then challenge them.
Okay.
You ask yourself, are these thoughts based on facts or are they just fear-based assumptions?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And once you've identified those limiting beliefs, you can start replacing them with some positive affirmations and empowering self-talk.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I used to struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. I would constantly doubt my abilities.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
But, once I started consciously reframing those negative thoughts and focusing on my strengths, I felt this huge shift in my confidence and my ability to take risks.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example of how powerful mindset shifts can be.
Right.
Now, we got to move on to those external obstacles. These might include stuff like, a lack of resources, a super demanding schedule, or maybe even unsupportive people in your life.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's really about identifying those external factors that could, throw you off track and brainstorming strategies to deal with them.
So maybe it's about setting boundaries with people or seeking out support or even learning new skills, right? To fill those gaps.
You got it. And this is where GTD comes in. One of the main principles of GTD is to capture everything that's cluttering your mind. Those to-dos, ideas, worries, even those nagging thoughts about potential obstacles, and get them out of your head and onto paper.
Ah, yes, the famous list.
Yeah.
I've heard so much about this. Is it really as life-changing as people say?
Well, it can be. It can be incredibly liberating. Think of your list as a catch-all for all those mental distractions. It could be a notebook, an app on your phone, even just voice memos. It doesn't really matter as long as it works for you.
Okay.
The key is just to have a system for capturing those thoughts so they don't, clog up your mental bandwidth.
So let's say I've brainstormed my goals, identified those potential obstacles, and I'm capturing everything on my list. What's next? How do I turn this jumbled mess into a clear plan?
All right, well, this is where we start to integrate the GTD workflow. We'll dive into that more in the next part, but just remember, the key is to process that in list regularly and turn those vague ideas and to-dos into concrete, actionable steps.
Okay, I'm ready to get organized. But before we jump into GTD, let's talk about a few more of those key steps from Brian Tracy's 12-step guide.
Sure. There are a few more good ones that are worth mentioning. For example, Tracy talks about making a list of all the skills you'll need to achieve your goal.
Okay, so like if my goal is to start an online business, I might list skills like web design, marketing, content creation, customer service, all that stuff.
Exactly. And once you've identified those skills, you can see where you stand with each of them. Like, how good are you at each of these skills? And then you can create a plan for, improving in the areas where you need to.
That's so true. And investing in yourself is like one of the best things you can do for yourself, really.
It really is.
Now, I'm also curious about something else Tracy mentioned. Identifying the people whose help you'll need. Why is that so crucial?
Well, because no one achieves great things alone, right? We all need support and guidance.
Yeah, true.
Think about the mentors you have, your colleagues, friends, even family members who could offer valuable insights or connections,
Okay, yeah.
or even just a listening ear.
And Tracy even suggests asking yourself what's in it for them as a way to encourage collaboration. So it's not just about asking for favors, it's finding ways to create relationships that are mutually beneficial.
Exactly. It's about understanding that collaboration goes both ways, right? When you approach people with a genuine desire to, create value for them, you're much more likely to get the support you need.
This has been super helpful. So we've talked about like the power of written goals, identifying obstacles, listing necessary skills, and even thinking about the people who can support us. Now I'm really eager to dive into GTD and learn how to transform all this information into like a streamlined plan of action.
Perfect. Well, that's exactly what we'll be tackling next time.
Awesome.
Stay tuned because things are about to get even more exciting. Okay, so we've kind of laid the groundwork with Brian Tracy's 12 steps, but now let's really get into the details of managing those goals with GTD.
Right, I'm ready to like turn this huge pile of ideas and to-dos into a real plan I can follow. Where do we start?
Well, remember that in list we talked about?
Yeah.
It's time to go through that list and start deciding what to do with each item.
Okay, so say my in list has everything on it, like learn to play the guitar, clean out the garage, write a novel. How do I even begin to work with that?
GTD has a great workflow for this. The first thing you do is look at each item and ask yourself, is this actionable? Basically, does it need you to actually physically do something?
So something like learn to play the guitar would be actionable, but like wish I had more free time wouldn't be.
Exactly. If it's not actionable, you can either file it away for later, get rid of it completely, or just keep it as reference material.
Okay, so what if it asks actionable? Like my goal to clean out the garage. That's definitely something I need to do.
Right, so then we ask the 2-minute rule question, can I do this in 2 minutes or less? If the answer is yes, just do it right then and there. Get it off your list and enjoy that feeling of accomplishment.
Oh, I love that. Quick wins are the best. But what about those bigger tasks? Like cleaning the garage is definitely going to take way more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, for those bigger tasks, you have 3 options. Delegate, defer, or put it on your projects list.
Okay, let's break those down. Delegating makes sense if it's something someone else can do. What about deferring?
Deferring basically means scheduling it for later. Maybe it's not urgent, or maybe you need to wait for something else to happen first, like an upcoming deadline or waiting for info from someone.
So it's all about putting tasks on your calendar or on a waiting for list. I got it. And then there's the projects list. What goes on there?
Your projects list is for anything that has multiple steps. For example, clean out the garage is a project because it involves going through everything, deciding what to keep, figuring out how to get rid of stuff.
So the project itself goes on the projects list, but all the little steps like sort through tools or find a donation center, those go on my next actions list.
Exactly. And this is where those GTD contexts come in handy.
Contexts. This is where I start to get a little confused. Can you explain how those work?
Okay, so imagine you have a bunch of tasks on your next actions list. Contexts help you categorize those tasks based on where you are, the tools you need, or even how much energy you have. For example, you might have contexts like at computer, at phone, at errands, or at home.
I see. So if I have a task like order new shelves for the garage, that would go under add computer because I need to be online to do it. And if I need to call the donation center, that would be at phone.
Exactly. It helps you group similar tasks together so you can use your time and resources better. They're super helpful when you only have a few minutes and you need to decide what to work on.
This is making a lot more sense. But keeping track of all these lists and contexts can feel kind of overwhelming. How
Yeah.
do I keep it from becoming like a project in itself?
That's where the weekly review is so important. It's a time you set aside each week to go through all your lists, get rid of completed tasks, and make sure everything is still on track.
Okay, so it's like a checkup for my system to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. When's the best time to do it?
A lot of people do it on Friday afternoons or Sunday evenings. It's a good way to clear your head before the weekend or to start the week feeling organized.
And what about all those random tasks that come up during the week? What do I do with those?
That's why having a solid in list is key. Whenever something comes up, a phone call, an errand, an idea you don't want to forget, just write it down on your in list and then deal with it later when you have time.
I love the idea of having a place to put all those random thoughts. Like
Yeah.
I can let go and trust that I'll take care of them later.
Exactly. It's all about creating a system you can rely on so you can free up your mind for the important stuff. Now, before we move on, I want to quickly mention two other GTD tools you might find useful: the Read Review folder and the Tickler file.
Ooh, those sound interesting. Tell me more.
So the Read Review folder is basically a place to put anything you need to read or look over later, articles, documents, even physical mail. That way it's not cluttering your desk.
I definitely need one of those. My desk is always covered in papers.
And then the Tickler file is like a physical reminder system. It's a set of 43 folders, 31 for the days of the month, and 12 for the months of the year. So if you have a bill due on the 15th of next month, you'd put a reminder in the folder for the 15th. Then each day you check the folder for that day, and you'll see any reminders for that day.
That's pretty clever. Though with all the technology we have now, I think I'd probably just use a calendar app or something.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. The important thing is that GTD is flexible. You can adapt it to your own style and use whatever tools work best for you.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I feel like I can actually do this. But before we finish this section, can we go back to Brian Tracy's 12 steps? Anything else we should touch on?
Yes, definitely. Tracy really emphasizes planning on different levels: daily, weekly, even monthly. And that's where those GTD next actions are really useful.
Right, so instead of just having a big goal like write a book, you break it down into smaller steps like write the outline for chapter 1 or research literary agents.
Exactly. And by using those contexts we talked about, you can easily figure out what to work on based on how much time you have and what you need to do it.
Like if I have 30 minutes before a meeting and I'm at my computer, I can just look at my computer list and see what I can get done in that time.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the system. It helps you make the most of any extra time you have.
This is all so helpful. But let's be real. Achieving goal is not just about having a good system, right? It's about mindset too.
You're totally right. And Brian Tracy talks about that too, especially self-discipline and visualization.
Okay, self-discipline. That can sound so hard. Like it's all about denying yourself things.
That it doesn't have to be. Think of it as choosing what you want most over what you want now. You know? It's about making choices that support your long-term goals, even when it's not easy.
I like that way of thinking about it. It makes it feel more empowering. Like I'm in control of my choices.
Exactly. It's about being the boss of your own life and making decisions that are good for you.
And what about visualization? I've heard about that, but how does it work for everyday goals?
Visualization is basically imagining yourself already having achieved your goal. Really, and try to use all your senses. How does it feel? What do you see, hear, smell? The more real you make it, the more your mind starts working towards making it happen.
Wow, I can see how that would be really powerful. It's like planting a seed in your mind and letting it grow.
Exactly. And the more you focus on that seed with positive emotions and actions, the more it will grow.
This is so inspiring. I feel ready to take action.
That's great. And remember, even small steps can make a big difference. The important thing is to be consistent.
I'm definitely ready to try that. Now, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners? So we've covered a ton in this deep dive into goal setting and productivity. We've talked about Brian Tracy's 12 steps, the GTD method. It feels like we've got a roadmap A&D, a toolbox to help us reach our goals.
Yeah, the idea is to help you feel more in control of your goals, not overwhelmed by them.
Exactly. And speaking of feeling overwhelmed, I'm curious, what are some of the common mistakes people make when they try to use GTD? And how can they avoid them?
One of the biggest mistakes is trying to do too much at once. GTD is a system, it takes time to learn and adapt to. Just start with the basics, capturing those ideas, clarifying them, organizing them, and then add more as you get comfortable.
So don't feel like you have to have everything perfectly set up right away.
Yeah.
It's more of a process, right?
Yeah. Right. Another common mistake is skipping the weekly review. It's easy to let it slide when you're busy, but it's so important to make time for it. That's when you reconnect with your goals, clear out your mind, and make sure your system is still working for you.
It's like a mental declutter. But for your to-do list, too, I think I'm starting to understand why it's so important.
And remember, GTD is a framework. It's not like a set of strict rules. You can change it up to fit your own needs and preferences. If something isn't working for you, try something else. The goal is to find what helps you stay organized and motivated.
I like that. All about personalization.
Yeah.
It's about making the system work for you.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, I want to go back to one of Brian Tracy's key points. Believing you can actually achieve your goals.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly. Your beliefs really do shape your actions, and your actions create your results. So cultivate a mindset of possibility. Believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want.
I love that. It's about shifting your mindset from limitations to possibilities. And that's what this whole deep dive has been about. Giving you the tools to unlock your potential and achieve amazing things.
We've given you a framework to set clear goals, break them down into steps, and stay organized and motivated along the way. Now it's up to you to use it.
Exactly. Don't just let this information sit in your notes. Pick one goal that you're really excited about and take that first step today.
Remember, even small steps, when you do them consistently, can create incredible results. So believe in yourself, use these methods, and get ready to create a life you love.
What a great way to end this episode. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into goal setting and productivity. Until next time, stay focused, stay motivated, and keep chasing those dreams.